Hey everybody, Kyle here, and I'm here to give my 2 cents on video games. But first off, I want to give my special thanks to James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, and Joe Vargas, aka Angry Joe. Mr. Rolfe reviews crappy games from the past, such systems like the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Master System. He is well known for taking you back to the past to play the shitty games that Mr. Vargas reviews games of this current generation to see how well these hold up for gamers. If it weren't for them, I would have played a lot of crappy games in my time. You can check them out on their YouTube websites or their regular websites, Cinemassacre.com and TheAngryJoeShow.com. Now for all you gamers out there, I give my salute. I've been playing video games ever since I had the strength to lift up a controller. And for people who grew up in the 80s and 90s, you should be familiar with the Nintendo Entertainment System. How I feel about the system itself? I loved it. My childhood was nothing but this classic gray box that stood in my family's living room until it broke. Even to this day, I continue to give it inspiration for getting me into video games in the first place. From the time I was a little boy until a teenager, it was what brought me into video games. I would come home from school every day and play the NES for hours on end. I spent much time on games such as Super Mario Bros., Battletoads, The Legend of Zelda, and many others. But sometimes I wonder, what would happen if Nintendo did not exist? I mean, sure, there were other classic systems such as the Atari 2600 and the Magnavox Odyssey, but the NES revolutionized the world. Would the gaming world be better off if the world had its Xbox and PlayStations? What would the gaming world be like if there was no Final Fantasy, Double Dragon, or Contra? To this I say, the world of gaming would be very lame. If it were not for the greatness of the NES, the consoles known as Xbox and PlayStations would not be the same. I don't think these consoles would even exist if the NES were not brought into this world. The NES gave gaming world a chance to expand on the games and consoles. But going back to my previous questions, what do others think if the NES never came to be? Would the gaming world be better or worse? Would you stick to the familiars or be a brave explorer in search of the unknown? Also, which is better? Retro gaming such as NES, Super NES, or newer gaming such as PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360? Is quality over quantity better, or just an excuse? Some also ask me how I would make the gaming world better or change it. Well, there's a little too much stuff on my list to say directly, but here are a few. Number 1 is to make a sequel to games that truly deserve it. If a game ends on a strong note and does not build up a sequel, then don't make a sequel. Square Enix, I'm looking at you guys. The next thing is, if you're going to announce a game, make sure it's done right, but does not take too long. When Duke Nukem Forever was announced, it almost took 10 years for the game to be finally released, and when it finally came out, it was panned by both critics and audience in general. I know there are limits to how much can go into the game, but a game does not need to take longer than 3 years to develop. Well, that's my 2 cents for today. Next time, I will discuss Square Enix, the mystery of Final Fantasy Versus 13. Where was it? Why has it not been released of yet? And my take on it. Hope you guys enjoyed my first podcast, and I hope to do more in the future. This is Kyle, signing off.